Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a jazz guitarist based in Toronto. He has performed and recorded with Melissa Lauren, Terra Hazelton, Jill Barber, Alex Pangman, Laura Hubert, Stephen Taetz, Drew Jurecka, and others. Nathan composes and plays jazz with numerous trios. His new group, Thermo, is co-led with Ottawa pianist Mike Manny. He has also written music for jazz quartet Robot Cops, set classic Canadian poetry to music with vocal trio Samways, and collaborated with Whitney Ross Barris to write solo vocal jazz with the Bright Lunch Trio. So, let's spill the tea with Nathan Hiltz. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks for having me, David.
Well, jazz and sax, jazz and blues, all of those genres gravitate to that horn instrument, and it's a classic. It's just nothing like a great jazz sax player or a sax player that can just wail on that instrument. But why jazz? Out of all the genres that you would have been exposed to through your teenage years and through through your years in the high school band, why jazz?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the expression of jazz resonated and worked well with me. In jazz, you have the opportunity to improvise, and there's the history of jazz happens over the last kind of 100 years, and so engaging with that tradition, it just really piqued my curiosity. It seemed to, more so than what I was maybe hearing in concert band or at that time hearing at church. The jazz music really kind of what they really value in jazz is freedom, um, and personality, personal sound, personal expression.
Mm.
Being yourself is a very highly held value in jazz. I mean, jazz comes out of the Black experience of Americans, and so it's about freedom, like literal freedom for them, So that really spoke to me at a young age, and I was good at it. So yeah, and jazz is deep as well. I mean, I did play in punk bands and ska bands. My high school ska band was Ska Family Robinson. I had a lot of fun playing with them. But jazz has a great depth, and when you get on that path, there's many places you can go.
When we think of jazz music and when we listen to jazz music, as you say, it's free flowing. You have a lot of time and space to
Mhm.
to express yourself. Some people might think that that means that jazz is not as structured as other genres of music. My interpretation of jazz is you almost need to be more structured in listening to the other artists that are around you in order for you to really gel with the band. Does that make sense? Or am I completely off base there?
No, you're absolutely right. That's one of the things we hold in the most high regard is ears. You say he has great ears, or and and that's one of the first things that we tell these young students. And one of the big transformations that happens when you start learning about jazz is that it's all about listening and being part of a greater whole. So you actually, it's odd, eh? It's like there's two things. We're holding up our own self-expression, but we're also listening and supporting those around us, And that's the miracle of jazz is that many people can get together at the same time and all be expressing who they are completely freely, and yet it all works well together, That doesn't happen in a lot of art forms. Like you don't get painters working on the same canvas. You don't get architects designing this, you don't see that. But in music, we can, because of the fact that the nature of sound, that I can make sound while you make sound, while 10 other people make sound, we can all do it together, It's quite amazing.
When we think about the jazz genre, and I'm thinking in terms of the Junos, which at this time of year. And the Junos have these genres that they put music into. And many artists have said to me, I can't get my music heard or played because wherever I seem to go, it doesn't match the genre that they are working with, whether it's a radio station or it's a club. My music doesn't match the genre.
Mm,
And the more I speak to artists, the more new genres I hear coming up. So,
mm,
what's the future for the Junos with all of these new genres that are coming up, like alt country and neo soul? I mean, there's
mm,
only so many genres we can have for awards, or are they
mm.
going to need to rework the Junos in order to expand on these genres?
Right, right. That's a good question. And what a difficult job for those on in the Juno committees and people in media like yourself and people that are running this whole entertainment industry. I mean, to me, that's your job to figure out. I mean, I'm at home. I'm working. I'm like, I'm here with my guitar, as you can see, and I'll work hard at creating and listening and synthesizing and studying and practicing my art, and then the reviewers or the listeners, they can decide what they want to call it. I'm more interested in what I might be doing right now. I mean, to me, I'm with Duke Ellington. He said, music is best enjoyed rather than discussed, you
Hmm.
know? Now, I know we're having an interview right now, and I'm so glad to be talking to you and all that, but I wish you and the people of the media industry good luck in negotiating these insane times of productivity because we know there's so much music available right now. And I think it must be hard to categorize everything. And I'm sure there's somebody out there with the gift of categorization that would be happy to do this for you. So,
Well, Nathan, I'm very fortunate because I have no categories on my show. We examine all genres, and that's what's exciting about what I'm able to do now is to discuss music with so many different artists that are coming up with these new terms and these new genres. And as they explain them to me,
mm,
it makes sense in what they're trying to accomplish. So I think it's so wonderful right now that artists like yourself, you're creating music, and wherever somebody wants to put it, that's up to them. But you're doing what you love and the passion that you have. So keep doing what you're doing, and my job's easy on this end of the
good,
microphone for sure.
good.
If you could have a wish to share the stage with any living artist, who would it be?
Mm, that's a good question. I, you know, I would love to. I'd love to play with well, Streisand would be really that would be a big one for me. Barbara Streisand. Yeah. Maybe a little more realistic. Diana Krall would be really nice. I would love that gig. I think I would do a really good job at that. Yeah.
That's an amazing list so far. And Diana Krall, one of my favorite smooth jazz artists, she has an amazing voice. Artificial intelligence is making its way into our lives. You speak about innovation and being innovative. Do you believe that there's a place for AI in music?
Mm. Oh, I'm personally very excited. I mean, I'm stuck in this flesh body. So if they can create an artificial intelligence that will play the most best stunning jazz guitar you've ever heard, I for one am excited to hear this guy and uh and enjoy the music on my headphones and transcribe the stuff that he's playing and be influenced by it. Because it doesn't look like I'm going to become a robot, or even if I'm offered to become one, I don't think I will. Um, Yeah, but and also, I mean, just imagine if they could model the brain of Kurt Cobain and give us 1,000 more Nirvana albums. I mean, I'd be happy to hear more Nirvana albums. That would be fine with me.
Well, let's get into one of the songs that you wrote. This song is based on a poem by the great Canadian poet and journalist Ethelwyn Wetherald.
Hmm.
It's for your Toronto Arts Council funded project Samways, and the outro of this song contains one of your favorite guitar solos, inspired by the style of Sonny Greenwich. So let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Nathan Hiltz and Unheard Niagaras.
We live among unheard Niagaras, the force that pushes out the meadowgrass, that swells to wrap around this ripening fruit, that lifts the briar rose. Ah, we live among unheard Niagaras, the force that pushes up the meadowgrass, that swells to ample around this ripening fruit, that lifts the briar
That was Unheard Niagaras by Nathan Hiltz. Nathan, I listened to the song and the vocals have this, it brings back Andrews Sisters. Like I heard the vocals, that's the Andrews Sisters vibe that I'm hearing in there. Who's on those vocals and how long did it take you to work on those harmonies?
Hmm. So yeah, that's Shannon Butcher, Jessica Lalonde, and my wife Melissa Lauren singing there. And yeah, they worked hard. We rehearsed a lot. I did write all the parts, though. I mean, arranging is another function of the musician that I really love to
Mhm.
do. So, and I think for this type of album and this type of harmonies, it's not improvised kind of harmonies. It's written out. Because a lot of the kind of chord progressions and things in there are not just three chord kind of progression. This is a little bit more expansive than that. Yeah, so how long it took about, I think all the songs were written by about a May, and then we had our first gigs by September. So I would have done the arranging for the original 8 or 9 pieces by the fall, and then we continued working over a couple years. Um, so each piece, tune would be written and then arranged and then added into a repertoire over a series of gigs. And then the pandemic kind of short circuited the development of that group for a period of time.
The poet or the poem from the poet that you used wrote many, many poems. How did you make the decision on which one to lift to
Mm.
write a song around?
Well, there's the Oxford Companion to Canadian Verse, which is the first published book of Canadian poetry. Like for a time in the 1800s, there wasn't really a Canadian identity, or the Canadian identity was kind of coming to fruition, right? So it's kind of a big deal that there's all of a sudden now these people calling themselves Canadians and they're Canadian poets. So the Oxford Press did a compilation of poetry. So that was my first kind of way to weigh in, because it was all kind of laid out for me there. There's problems with that. There's been several editions since then. I think the most recent one, Margaret Atwood, chose the poems, and you get a lot more female poets in that one.
Mhm.
Uh, and but Yeah, so I was literally guided by the establishment of Canadian poetry. I've met some Canadian poets who would know way more of her work, or Bliss Carman's work, or these other people, but I was happy to be. I'm pretty mainstream with my choices.
So, how do people find out more about you, Nathan? What's the website? What are your socials that people can go and find out about gigs, tours, concerts, and new music that's coming up from you?
Well, nathanhiltz.com or Nate Hiltz on Instagram. Or you can show up on a Sunday at Grace Church on the Hill, and I'll be there. I'm an artist in residence there, so sort of where I run most of my activities out of. So come say hi in person if you don't feel like opening up your computer.
We've been in conversation with Nathan Hiltz. Nathan, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, David.